pase, pierna derecha, directo al arco, ¡golazo! ¡Golazo!
The world of football with a soccer perspective. This is Soccer Today with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee, live on the Sports Podcasting Network.
And good day, good night. Welcome to Soccer Today for Friday, January 5th, 2018. I'm still not used to saying 2018. Every time I write the date, Beau, I still have to catch myself and not write a 7 instead of an 8. But it's now Friday, 2018, first Friday of 2018. And Beau, I want to keep it light. Beau Dure's on the line with me at Dura Sport on Twitter. It's been a difficult few weeks, talking about a lot of negative things in the world of sports, in the world of soccer, in the world of life, basically. So, Beau, today I'm going to keep it light.
All right, sounds good. Well, I feel very Canadian today. We have a wind chill well under 0 Fahrenheit. So, yeah, we're...
The north is catching up to people in the south, so hopefully, actually, to all our friends in the Maritimes right now and in the east coast of the United States and Canada, hopefully everyone's okay with the winter storm that happened last night. But Beau, how does it feel to have winter in Virginia?
Well, we get decent winters from time to time, but this is absurdly cold for us. We didn't get hit too much by the snow, but they canceled school today for the cold. Which I realize to Canadians sounds rather silly, but well, the funny thing is we canceled Washington, the D.C. itself, the city itself, opened its schools, and they're getting blasted for it because they say, look, we've got kids who don't have, they're
not equipped, right? They don't have the jackets that we have here because we don't really have a choice here.
Right, and so if you live, depending on where you live, if you don't have a lot of money, your priority is probably not going to be to dress as if you're going to be, tackling the slopes at Aspen or something like that. So it's going to be, we just need to get through this weekend, and I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, speaking of getting through, 2018 is a kind of a in-between years in women's soccer, and I was thinking, and I was doing some research before today's show, Beau, and I was like, what's in store for us for 2018 in the NWSL, U.S. Women's National Team, the Canadian Women's National Team as well? And I was thinking, there's a few friendlies for the United States, one at the end of the month here, but what's the biggest thing in 2018 for the U.S. Women's National Team and women's soccer?
Well, are you excited about World Cup qualification?
Yeah, because usually I'm excited for World Cup qualification, not as a Canadian, but as a fan of sports, because as a fan of soccer, I'm not used to doing well in World Cup qualifying, except on the women's side. But even on the women's side, correct me if I'm wrong, this time around, not saying they're not going to qualify. Now, they'll qualify for the Women's World Cup. I'm not saying that. But it might not be as easy as before.
No, I mean, it's getting... Well, the U.S. ran the trouble time before last, where they lost to Mexico in the semifinals of CONCACAF and then had to beat Costa Rica in the third-place game just to get to a playoff where they had to beat Italy, and that was not it was not a dominating performance in that two-leg playoff with Italy. It was really the heroics of Alex Morgan that got the U.S. to the World Cup in the first place. So it's never a given. But at this point, I'm not sure anyone even knows when it is. It's supposed to be this year, but we don't really know when. So that's a bit of where we haven't quite caught up on women's soccer in the sense that we just, you wouldn't have that going into a men's World Cup qualifying year. You wouldn't say, oh, well, we have no idea when the games are going to be. You'd say, no, we have the schedule for the hexagonal, or we drew the hexagonal right after the previous round had finished, and we knew months in advance what we're going to, we knew all the dates in advance. We don't even really know the dates at this point.
Yeah,
so,
that's something that always surprises me. I don't want to say the lack of organization, because it doesn't describe what I mean correctly.
You can say the lack of organization.
Okay. Then I'll say the lack of organization, or maybe consistency. We're talking, and I don't want to make this a conversation between what's the difference between men and women's soccer and why one is great, why one is not popular. No, I just want to highlight the point here where even for players, visualization, mental preparation, knowing when that day will come, knowing that this day in a year and a half on whatever date at this time at that stadium I will play for my country and trying to qualify for a World Cup and act accordingly, prepare yourself accordingly, mentally, physically, prepare your body accordingly. And I think the lack of having that consistency cycle to cycle, always the same format, always the same basically path to a World Cup, it's a bit different every time. Not it's the same, but it's not the same dates. It's not consistent with the time before, after, time between rounds of qualification, and I think that's a bit of a shame for athletes themselves.
It is. And yeah, it feels like an afterthought, and that's unfortunate. First of all, because it's simply a matter of respect, but yeah, also it is a question of as you said, preparation. I mean, they absolutely should be working up to that qualification this year. I mean, and in the you could say, well, for the U.S. team, they've got a 98% chance of qualifying or whatever, so maybe it's not that big a deal for them. It's certainly a lot worse for other teams. I mean, you'd expect the U.S. and Canada to be in it again, of course, but what about Mexico and Costa Rica? This is a pretty big deal for them, and their passage is far from assured. And CONCACAF has the great 3.5 slots, so obviously there's going to be a big impetus on getting third place or at least fourth. And yeah, for people in Mexico and Costa Rica, that's a big deal. Of course, Mexico has its league up and running. It's a bit of an oddball one, but they got huge attendance.
It's about
30,000. Yeah.
Let's make sure that we stress, Beau, that it's about time that Liga MX Femina exists. It's about time that Mexico, as a federation, as a Federación Mexicana de Fútbol, as a whole, as an organization, it's time that they stop their misogynistic views and start to spend money on the women's side of the game. And I think I'm actually happy to see it happen. It's a long time coming. I've been doing this show and other iteration for about 5 years. And for the last 3 at least, well, the first 3, Mexico had no will or even ambition of spending any amount of investment of money on the women's side. And I'm happy to say that has changed.
It has. And yeah, that's a positive thing. And look, if Mexico could ever really get its act together, then you'd have certainly a 3-way battle for first place in this region. I think that would be great for everyone involved. And then, of course, you can't count out Costa Rica, which just as on the men's side, they tend to play, above their population, I suppose you'd say, or they tend to play better than their population would suggest. So this could be a very interesting tournament coming up, and certainly down the road, it could be quite a tournament that hopefully you'd think they would start advancing earlier, because everyone's going to need to be ready for this, because it'll be more intense. It'll be, as we've seen on the men's side, something you can't take for granted.
No, just ask Italy. But that's another discussion for another day. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, Beau, as well today is the U.S. Soccer Federation election process and the ramification on the women's side of that election. Hope Solo has been outspoken, and she's running for presidency and saying she will want to better the women's side of the game as well. If elected, Kathy Carter, former president or still acting president of Soccer United Marketing, is the kind of elected consensus pushed party where MLS, USSF, and Sunil Gulati have given their backing and their support to. As a woman, are those two the best choices for the NWSL going forward? And that's just because they're women? Or is there other candidates, other important aspect of this election that could benefit or detriment NWSL in the future?
I don't think anyone is under the impression that Kathy Carter or Hope Solo would have to be the president for the NWSL to make and the women's national team to make progress. No, I mean, with Kathy Carter, there are questions because They wonder if the Soccer United marketing / MLS / US Soccer establishment has done enough for the women's game, and she has been, not just a passenger in that. She's the president on hiatus of the organization, and so she's facing questions about whether she has actually done anything for women's soccer. Hope Solo certainly has done something for women's soccer. The question is whether she could be effective in the role. Meanwhile, the other candidates, this is not a raging group of misogynists. That this is a group of people who, the former athletes, Winalda and Martino and Caligiuri, are all, they've all sort of grown up with the notion that the women's national team is their peer, and that women's soccer players are their peers. And Paul Caligiuri was on the Athletes Council, and so women were his peers there too. And Caligiuri, who hasn't gotten a lot of attention this election because he's not on Twitter all day,
that's
fair.
That's fair. If you're not on Twitter, you don't exist, right? It's
right. That's what it seems like sometimes.
If something is said in a woods and nobody's there to hear it on Twitter, it actually happened.
Right. But one of the issues with the U.S. soccer election, and I'll try not to get too detailed with this, but roughly 25% of the vote belongs to the Pro Council, which is all the leagues that are professional. Well, there are 4 professional leagues in the U.S. There's MLS, NASL, which is suing the federation and is in kind of a state of limbo, USL, and the NWSL. And there have been a lot of loud complaints related to the lawsuit about the NASL's representation on that council, saying it should be higher than it is. Caligiuri came out and said NWSL should have more representation. He said, look, MLS is a Division I league. Okay, NWSL is a Division I league. Why don't they have more representation? Why don't they have a larger share of the vote? And so, that I think that's indicative of the fact that there are people who really are paying attention. I think all the candidates are. I mean, I think at one point or another, pretty much every candidate has said so. Everyone is really pushing diversity in this election. You'll see people talking about Paralympics and beach soccer and futsal. I mean, people want every team to be taken seriously, and so certainly women's soccer is a big part of that. So I don't think anyone's really looking at this election thinking, well, the women have been undervalued, so we have to vote for Hope Solo or Kathy Carter. I don't think that's the case. I think the other candidates are making a fairly compelling case that they're going to pay attention. I mean, Eric Winalda was talking about ripping up the recent collective bargaining agreement that the women's team signed. I don't know if that's practical, but it shows that how committed he is to seeing women paid equitably. So I don't think Carter or Solo. I think that's going to hurt Solo's campaign, especially. It's not an issue for Carter. For Carter, it's just shoring up the establishment base and trying to convince 50% of the voters that they don't want to rock the boat.
It's famous election quote, right? Don't rock the boat, vote for me. Famous tactic. But
yeah. And for Solo, it's don't worry about the fact that I'm still in court in Washington for a domestic violence case, and don't worry about the fact that my husband and I took a U.S. soccer van, and don't worry about everything that happened. I can still be a professional when it comes to being president.
Thank you for bringing that up, because we forget sometimes in this world of transparency, we have to be transparent. And even though sometimes it might not look the best, you kind of have to say reality and to talk about the truth. I'm going to do a short exercise with you both to finish our segment today. I'm going to treat you as a lobbyist. You work for the NWSL. You represent influence of the NWSL, and you can influence a few votes to maybe USSF election. What is the one issue? What is the one thing do you think the NWSL needs to get your vote for the USSF election? If you are the lobbyist, or if you are in a position to vote in that election and you represent NWSL, Beau, what is your demand?
Oh boy, that's I suppose the simple answer is just simply more money, and because you look at the other things, and U.S. Soccer has done U.S. Soccer's done a fair amount for this league. Let's not forget that. I mean, they subsidize the salaries for the women's national team, or else maybe all of them will be playing for Lyon right now, not just Morgan Bryan.
That's true. That's true.
And so that's a big help. And of course, there is an issue now where I think not an issue, it's just simply the trend that more clubs, or more NWSL teams are becoming affiliated with MLS clubs, or in one case, a USL club that it just moved from the NASL. Yet there have been two teams that have moved in the NWSL. That's Western New York and Kansas City. And Western New York moved to North Carolina and affiliated with North Carolina FC, which is now in the USL. And Kansas City moved to Utah as affiliated with Real Salt Lake. So, in a sense, the establishment is stepping up in sort of an indirect way because the teams that are affiliated with MLS right now are doing better than the ones that aren't. I mean, certainly Portland is the big deal there. I mean, they draw 5-figure crowds for every game, sometimes in the closer to 20,000 than 10. And Orlando does pretty well, and Houston does okay. I think North Carolina had a good start last year, and then I'm optimistic for Utah. And of the non-affiliated teams, you have Washington kind of leads the pack in there. Boston's on shaky ground. Chicago they don't get a huge amount of attendance, but they seem to be a fairly stable organization. And I cannot for the life of me understand why Sky Blue has not made the obvious choice to affiliate with NYCFC, which wears the same color, or
they call
wears Sky Blue.
Sky Blue.
It's so obvious.
And
they
come on, it's like a working title. It's like a working name of the team. Like, okay, that's a working title of the team. Let's call them Sky Blue, and we'll try to get an affiliation with NYCFC. And it seems like it never happened. It seemed like nobody answered that call, but they still left the working title on the project.
Yeah, as far as the federation goes, if you'd asked me, a year or a year and a half ago, you might have said, well, Soccer United Marketing needs to be working more with the NWSL. But then the NWSL landed this deal with Lifetime, the not well-regarded women's cable channel, but it is on TV. It does have streaming, and when the streaming wasn't really working for its subscribers, whatever, last year, they opened it up on the site. This year, there's a deal that I know they've just made. I don't quite understand the ramifications of it, but should open up more streaming and better streaming. So, and that really revved up their website as well. So they're actually doing pretty well on the media front right now, or at least this deal is only this is not a deal you want to go tear up right now. It's pretty new, and it seems to be a substantial. It was an improvement last year, and it seems like it may be more of an improvement this year. So they're actually making progress on their own with the media front. So in terms of what the federation can do for U.S. soccer or for NWSL right now, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it could just be perhaps trying to go with seed money. So I think what they really need is a longer season. And a longer season means they have to be able to pay everybody a fairly substantial amount, because right now there are players
living wages, basically, like because it's not the case right now. This can for a lot of players, this cannot be a full-time job just because it's not enough to just get by.
Right. So they have to do something else after the season, and that could be going to Australia, as a lot of them do, because Australia plays a very short season in the U.S. winter, so that works out pretty well for them. But I don't know. I actually thought it'd be interesting to see the NWSL have a futsal competition in the winter. Just to to keep skills up and so forth. I don't know if they'd go for that though, because they're not happy about playing on turf. They might not be happy about playing on gym floors.
You think the turf hurts when you fall on it? Wait till it's a floor.
Right. Now granted, in futsal you don't hit the ground as much.
Yeah, exactly. You don't dive, and the ball doesn't go up anyway. So yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's a very different sort of game. But I've wondered if there's a creative way to get NWSL teams to have a longer footprint when. Certainly, if you look outside in Northern Virginia this morning, you would not want to go to a Washington Spirit game right now.
Well, Bo, you can always console yourself by saying that you're lucky to not look outside my window because I don't see anything. It's just white and the window's covered. So that's winter in Canada for you. We
Right.
went full circle, Bo. We started with the weather. We finished with the weather. I want to thank you very much for your time today, and I want to wish you a great year of soccer in 2018.
You too, and thanks again, and best of luck to Canada this year. I think I'm expecting big things from Canada.
As we all.
Well, you've got a Duke player on it, so you're going to be doing just so.
Well,
Rebecca Quinn. So
The Blue Devils.
so you know you're going to be good.
Go Blue Devils.
Blue Devil. That's right.
Bo, you can follow Bo on Twitter at Dure Sport, and we'll be right back after the break.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at Soccer Today SPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network. You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.
And we're back on Soccer Today. Myself, Kevin Laramee. You can follow me on Twitter at Kev Laramee and on Facebook, facebook.com/KevLaramee. Few tidbits of news before we wrap the show up for this week. Duane's on assignment. He should be able to appear at some point in the next few hours. Hopefully everyone's okay, by the way, in the Atlantic provinces, Maritimes, and the eastern coast of Canada and the United States. Our thoughts are with you. And our thoughts are with Lionel Messi, too. You know, Leo, you just signed a big extension of your contract. One thing that wasn't told during that press conference is, well, you have a special clause in that contract, Leo. If ever Catalonia declares independence, you're free to go. Contract's not good anymore. Contract becomes null, void, not good anymore, obsolete, deleted if Catalonia declares independence. Who said there's no politics in soccer? Who said there's no politics in sports? Guess they were wrong. Leo Messi, that will not go well with your fans in Barcelona. So we'll see what happens with that. But that news came out today, and I thought it was quite interesting to see this. Is it Leo Messi's demand to have that clause in his contract? Is it his agent that decided to, you know what? What happened last year, or this year, last year in 2017? How about we put it on paper? How about we put a clause? How about a political release clause that if Messi wants to leave and Catalonia declares independence, well, he's got his window. That could happen. Another thing that could happen miles and miles away, this time in LA, in the FC part of LA, and not the Carson part, but the more Hollywood part of Los Angeles, Mark Dos Santos is apparently in talks with LAFC to join them as an assistant, as Bob Bradley's assistant in his staff. We've been talking a lot about Mark Dos Santos for the last few weeks, month. One, if not the best coach, North American based, without a job right now, with Gio Savarese, formerly of the New York Cosmos, now being employed by the Portland Timbers. We were all wondering where Mark Dos Santos will land. We're still wondering. And we know that MDS was in the running for the Portland job. We know, according to himself, to Mark Dos Santos himself, if you go back to just a few weeks ago, just after the Deltas won the championship in the NASL, you should know where I'm going in a few days. And then opportunities opened. And then there were chances for him. A decision was made. There was an agreement, but it wasn't signed. And this time around, he elected to maybe weigh his option. that option could be, well, maybe not coming close to home, because that was the announcement. So I'm going close to home in 2018. Well, maybe he'll be even further than he was in 2017, but this time with the chance to work one of the best coaches in North America's history, in Bob Bradley, if not the best U.S. coach ever produced, and have a chance to play with great names and a decent team to manage great players. The Benny Feilhaber, who just got traded from Kansas City to LAFC, and he's in De La Racima, Zimmerman, Vela, and company. LAFC is slowly becoming a decent team, and it might be the best team in LA as we speak. First matchup between the two teams, by the way, March 31st at Carson, at the StubHub Center. StubHub. I feel like I hit my toe when I said that name. It's the type of name that, like, you StubHub your toe, right? That's what happens. But at StubHub Center, March 31st, the first ever meeting between the newly minted rivals, LA Galaxy versus LAFC, a.k.a. the Angels, on March 31st, 2017, in LA. That game will be important. It'll be fun to see who wins the first battle of LA. And no, Kurt Russell is not implicated, and we're all thankful of that. A little bit of tidbits of news coming from Montreal. Well, coming outside of Montreal, but with some Montreal ramification as well. Hernan Bernardello has found himself a new club back in his home country of Argentina. And, he's going to play for Messi's old team. Newell's Old Boys. Messi's boyhood team, teenage boyhood team, has announced yesterday that Hernan Bernardello was joining the ranks. Bye-bye, Hernan. Wish you the best. Never really filled or was able to perform according to expectations in Montreal. Especially first time around when he had that DP tag on him. This go around, he was important in parts of the results of the club. Especially in 2017, late in the season. In 2016, sorry. There was no late of the season in 2017, but in 2016, yes, Montreal made it to Eastern Conference Final before missing the playoffs in 2017. Well, Hernan Bernardello will now play in Argentina. And the other news is something we've been talking about. It's not necessarily news. We've known this for a while. We've been talking about this since we know about the divorce. Since we saw that Blair Zamali asked for divorce to his former wife, Elena. Not even going to try to mention her last name. Her. Ever since divorce was made and signed, kind of have a feeling that Blair Zamali wouldn't want to play just in Montreal. And it's not just a sporting reason. It's family reasons. He wants to be closer to his boys. They're in Italy. And he would like to take care. He asked for a full-time guard. Like, he wants to be the guardian of his children. And it would be easier for him to go back to Italy. Maybe even Bologna. The first transfer a few weeks ago for like a loan so he can get ready for the World Cup was denied by Saputo and Montreal Impact. Now he's actually willing to maybe take even a bigger pay cut. His salary in Major League Soccer, his contracted salary for 2018 is $750,000 with a cap hit of $500,000. And apparently is willing to take a huge pay cut to go back to Italy so he can take care of his boys. And so he doesn't have to play MLS. Because if you looked at how Blair Zamali played the last few months of the season last year, frustration was clear. And it was because of the play, too. Did not appreciate playing in Major League Soccer, especially with the level of play, the caliber of refereeing, lack of consistency in the refereeing department, and the type of play in academy and how training goes, and just life in North America. I think wasn't necessarily did not live up to expectations of Blair Zamali. And I would be very surprised if we see him again in a Montreal Impact uniform. Is it possible? Can Montreal force him to come back and play one last year like DDA? Yeah, but do you want a guy who doesn't want to be here? I'm up to a point in my life here watching sports. Or if you don't want to be here, I don't care what your name is. I don't care who you are. I'd rather have someone that's not as talented as you but wants to be here. That's my opinion. So Blair, you don't want to come back? Then don't. Enjoy Italy. We'll get someone who wants to be here. And for me, that's more important than just, oh, he's a good player, let's him come back and he can... You know what? He doesn't want to be here. How many second and third effort is he going to do during an MLS game to get that ball back, to win that ball, and to launch an attack or to launch a ball possession stint or whatever? We didn't see that late last year. We saw that in his earliest form before his 10-day break during the summer, and he was never the same player after for Montreal. Something happened during that 10-day break, and he was never the same for Montreal after. So you're going to tell me that this player is going to come back if he's forced to and be prolific for this team and give his 100% and trying to give his second, third, fourth effort? I don't believe it. I don't want him back if he doesn't want to. Blare him. Stay on the old continent. Take care of your boys. Take care of your family. We understand 100%, but we'll get someone that wants to be here. If I was GM, if I was technical director, if I was his agent, that would be my discussion with Mr. Dzemali. Always been a class act, though. Never had a problem with Blair him and how he handled himself off the pitch and on the pitch. On the pitch, yeah, you lack a patience, lack of understanding for how MLS is a bit, maybe, yeah. But always a class act, always showed up, always talked to the media, always was able to give his true opinion. And, you know, even though people don't, he was always fair, I think. And hopefully we'll see Blair him back if he wants to. But if he doesn't want to, Blair him, stay home. And I totally get it and totally understand. We're not judging. But for the sake of this Montreal team, because they need help. They truly do. We need someone who wants to be here. So, it's all good. It's all fair. No hard feelings. Let's agree to go our separate ways. That's what would happen if I was in Blair Dzemali's corner and we're talking to the Montreal Impact and vice versa. That would be my opinion. Hope you like the show. We're back. We're back stronger than ever, and we're going to be back Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. On Thursdays, usually it's 5 ring day. We're ramping up for the Olympics of 2018, which is now just a few weeks away. We're like 5 weeks from the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. And you can follow the 5 Rings podcast if you want to stay up to date and get ready for the Olympics. You like the show? You like what we do? You like the content that we produce, the quality of the content that we produce. You like myself, you like Duane, or you dislike us. Well, that's fine. It's all good. Love it or hate it, as long as you listen. We're happy. And if you're happy as well and you want to let us know that you're happy about what we do, patreon.com/Sports Podcasting Network. I want to take a second to thank all the patrons, from Chris to Dino to Ian to Patrick to Don to Cal to many, many, many more. We want to thank you for your patronage over the last few years. Thank you for your continuing support. And join them. Help us to do even more quality podcasting, on-demand audio, sports audio. Call it whatever you like, but we can do more of it with your help. Some guests, we can get bigger guests, better microphone, better quality of life, better travels, better everything. With your help, could have gone to Russia. We won't. It's too far, too close. But with your help, we might be there the next time. With your help, we might be going to the next Olympic. With your help, we can continue to keep an independent voice in your favorite sports, to analyze truly what's going on. Not with a skewed opinion, not with a biased show, but with an independent one, weighing both sides. And with your help, we can keep that independence. Patreon.com/Sports Podcast Network. And as always, I'm Kevin Laramee. It's an FA Cup weekend. A lot of great FA Cup matchup. A Merseyside derby to start the third round of the FA Cup today, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Loads of matchup this weekend as well. Third round of the FA Cup is where the Premier League team comes in. Some big matches, some maybe upsets in the book. We'll see. You have big teams like Liverpool and Everton or Fleetwood Leicester. Can Fleetwood pull off an upset at home tomorrow morning? Man United, Derby County, Millwall, Barnsley, Borough, Sunderland, Bournemouth, Wigan, Cardiff, Mansfield, Wickham, Preston. That's interesting. You got a lot of great game. And QPR, MK Dons, Exeter City, West Bromwich Albion, Brentford, Notts County, and so on and so forth. 3 straight days of FA Cup. Today, Saturday, and Sunday. Sportsnet World, Sportsnet 1, wherever you get, usually, your FA Cup. If you're on the old continent, if you are in England, it will be on the BBC for you. Just Google it. You'll find where the games are playing in your market. But it's 3 straight days of FA Cup that is following this show. Enjoy the FA Cup. And as always, this time for real, I am Kevin Laramee. And have a great soccer.
You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.